With the 15th pick and with the 26th pick in the 2019 NFL Draft, the Washington Redskins select Dwayne Haskins, Montez Sweat.
Welcome, all my fellow Redskin brethren and sister. I am your man and resident Redskins fan, Lou. Thank you for joining me here, the Redskins Report Live. All right, so tonight I really want to focus in on free agency. A lot of questions have been asked in past live shows about free agency, and really I didn't have any answers for you because I hadn't taken a look at the free agency crop. I'm just going to tell you right now, I'm going to be upfront with you. Not a lot of stuff out there, man. All right, unless you're in the market for a quarterback. There's plenty of those available. All right, especially if some of these veterans are unsettled in their current locations. All right, if Tom Brady decides he really wants to bolt from New England, he's going to be a hot commodity. If the Saints decide they're done with Drew Brees, he's a hot commodity. If Phillip Rivers is no longer welcomed in Los Angeles with the Chargers, probably going to be a hot commodity. So there are going to be some quarterbacks. What are the Bucs going to do with Jameis Winston? So forth and so forth. A lot of quarterbacks available in the upcoming offseason. Teddy Bridgewater among them. So a lot of quarterbacks available. But then once you get past those guys, it's not a lot out there. I'm just going to be very honest with you. Not a lot of stuff out there that's really intriguing. A lot of older stuff. And generally, that's what you get on the free agent market. I'm not telling you something you don't already know. This is generally what you get on the free agent market. A lot of 30-somethings, a lot of guys pushing 30, guys that aren't the best players, not in the elite category, because generally, if they are, teams are going to lock those guys up or they're going to slap a franchise tag on them. That we don't know what teams are going to do with right now. The franchise tag period has not begun because the new league year has not taken place yet. So there's still so many things to be decided, but we're going to talk about free agency anyway because this team does have some holes that they may be able to fill. I'm still looking at the draft as my number one area to try and repair some of the holes that this team has. There are some ways to supplement your roster, and I always say this, you build your team through the draft, you supplement your roster through free agency. If you do it the other way around, you end up missing the boat, and you end up being back in the same position that you were in the previous year if you missed the postseason, looking for help at a number of different positions and not being in the postseason. So if the Redskins continue to do it the way they've done it the last few years, one of the few things Bruce Allen did right here, and he didn't do many things right, was that he didn't really overspend on free agents. He didn't spend frivolously. Now, we weren't always happy with the moves that were made. Let me rephrase that. 95% of the time, we weren't happy with the moves made and the money spent. But he never overspent. And I can tell you this, they really put an emphasis on the draft the last 3 or 4 years. So you want to continue with that trend of focusing more on the draft than free agency. But if there is a guy or two to be had in free agency that can help this team, you want to make sure you do your due diligence there. Look at what the Packers were able to do. Not saying that free agency was the only reason that the Packers turned it around and went from a 7-9 ball club to a 13-3 ball club. But the Smith brothers were a huge part of why the Packers were able to turn it around, at least on the defensive side of the football. They were massive for the Green Bay Packers. Adrian Amos, another free agent acquisition by the Packers, helped come in and revamp that defense. They were much better on that side of the football. They were a 13-3 team this year, and the defense was a huge catalyst for the change in Green Bay. Obviously, having a healthy Rodgers goes a long way, but still, you spend your money properly in free agency, you can see dividends return very quickly to you. And so we'll see if the Redskins can do that this year. Make sure that you're leaving a like in the comment section or a like for this video. Make sure if you're in the comment section, first and foremost, thank you for joining me. Secondly, subscribe to the Louis T Network if you haven't already done so. And thirdly, use the hashtag LouisTLive to have your comment read on the air if it is pertinent, okay? Now, let me give you the pecking order in case some of you are unaware of how this works, and I'll try to go through this throughout the course of this stream for those that join in a little bit later. But super chats come first. That's why they're called super. They supersede everything else. You want your comment read above everyone else's. You want to skip to the front of the line, including phone calls. Super chat is the way to go. Those rank first, okay? So I'm going to read all of the super chats before I get to any phone calls or any comments in the comment section. Super chats come first. Next come the phone call. All right, you call in and I see the call. I pick up the phone. And please, one, we're not doing the 10-minute calls tonight. We're going to try to keep these to 5 minutes or less so we can get as many calls in as possible. Two, don't call here and say hello 15 times. And then after I say hello and you hear me say hello, you sit there and there's this awkward silence. Guess what? You called me. I didn't call you. So if once you hear me say hello and I ask you who you are, just say who you are and jump right to it, okay? And then thirdly, make sure that we can hear you. We don't need you to be in a dungeon somewhere and have the worst reception ever and you're in and out. Make sure you're in a clear, concise area where the reception is great and we can all hear you. Make sure your volume is all the way up so we can hear everything that you're saying, and make sure that we can respond to your comments. So with that being said, and then last, obviously, but not least, the comment sections in the comment will be read as many as I can get to, but usually the super chats and the calls come in very rapid fire, so it's hard to get to as many of the comments as I want to in the comment section. That being said, what I want to start the show with before I open up the phone lines is a look at free agency. Okay, I talked about free agency, and I tried to narrow it down to the positions I think the Redskins will take a look at. Not saying that they will actually sign guys from these positions, but I think these are positions that the Redskins will take a look at in free agency, do their due diligence. Alex Santos and company, who is the director of pro scouting, they're going to take a look at these free agents, do their homework, do their due diligence, see what the Redskins need to do, and see if these guys are interested coming here. And like I said, they'll do their due diligence and they'll figure out what they need to do. So let's take a look at that group first, and then we'll get to your comments after you've had a chance to look. So we'll start with the quarterback position. I do think the Redskins need quarterback help. So what I've done is I've put as many of these guys up as I think are pertinent. And so I'll give you a chance to peruse the list. As you look at the list of quarterbacks, obviously the first 7, 8 guys in every single category are going to probably be the most pertinent. These are the guys that a lot of people are going to be after. If you're a Redskins fan, we're not going to be after anyone on this particular first list, most likely. When you look at this list, we'll be after a Chase Daniel type, Case Keenum maybe back. We'll see Chad Henne, those types of guys, although I don't see us going after like a Chad Henne or anything like that. If we go after a veteran quarterback, it'll be one that someone in the building is most likely familiar with, a guy that knows the system. If there were a backup in Carolina last year that had some mileage on them, that knew the offense, that could come in and help install it, that would probably be really convenient, but that's not the case. They had a very young crop of quarterbacks in Carolina last year, so hard to say what they'll do, if anything, at the quarterback position as you get to the next list of quarterbacks. It's very long, but again, I don't see the Redskins going in the direction of one of these veterans unless they find out that Alex Smith is not healthy. I think they're going to give him every opportunity to prove that he can play before they decide to go in this direction. If they get to free agency, Alex Smith hasn't given them any indication that he's going to be able to be of any use to them in 2020. That's when they start looking at these list of quarterbacks. And maybe a guy like Colt McCoy, who's been here, well-respected in the locker room, is brought back now that the old regime is out. Maybe Colt McCoy will feel more comfortable staying here. Same thing could be said for a Case Keenum. I don't know what the future holds for either one of those guys. It would make probably the most sense to just bring one of those two guys back if you're going to go with the veteran backup quarterback option. But nonetheless, we'll see what the Redskins decide to do as we continue down the list of quarterbacks. These are the final guys. And again, you won't see many of these guys with the Redskins having interest. Although you see a Dak Prescott on this list, he's not going anywhere, obviously. Taysom Hill is interesting, not for the Redskins, but for teams out there looking, he'd be a perfect fit in New England. But the Redskins wouldn't have any use for a guy like Taysom Hill. But as you look at that list, a guy that is really interesting was a guy that, and you see Kyle Allen also on that list, a guy that played in Carolina. That's a name to look out for, but I doubt he's going anywhere. I doubt he's going to be in Washington, but you never know. Again, he's brought a lot of guys from Carolina. I wouldn't be surprised if they did try to kick the tires of a guy like Kyle Allen. But Nick Mullins was a guy that we talked about. Remember, he was a restricted free agent last year. He's a guy that was interesting and could garner a little bit, or no, he was a guy that had a year left on his deal, and a lot of people were talking about potentially trading for him, and we were one of those teams thinking about, what if, the Redskins were out for another quarterback, which they were. Remember, they traded for Case Keenum last year. Nick Mullins was one of those guys, so that's a name to keep an eye on, but, I don't see the Redskins going after a Kyle Allen, but, Brandon Allen is another interesting name of a guy that I thought played actually really well when he got an opportunity in Denver last year. But we see the direction they're going in with that franchise. Maybe Brandon Allen is the guy the Redskins might take a look at. I don't know if they're going to go young, if they're going to go veteran. It'll be interesting to see. But that's the quarterback position in a nutshell. As we progress to the wide receiver position, this is another position of need, if you ask me, for the Redskins. I think the Redskins would be better served taking care of this need via the draft, but there are some guys in free agency at the receiver position that, to me, would be of benefit to this football team. You see a veteran like Emmanuel Sanders up there. Can't go wrong with a guy like that. Still think he's got really good football left in him. His question has been health of late. When he's healthy, he's been productive, but I don't think the Redskins are looking to go in that direction. But then again, we don't really know what to expect with this organization because there is no track record here in Washington. Maybe the way they did it in Carolina, you could kind of base some things off of that. But he's getting a chance to do it his way, is Ron Rivera. So maybe the way that he did it in the past was a little bit different, and he's going to do it the way he wants to do it. It wasn't all the way that he wanted to do it. So in my mind, I'm going to just go with the assumption that we don't know anything about how he wants to conduct business. So it'll be hard for me to say that he's going to do this or he's going to do that. Bottom line is, a lot of people had asked about A.J. Green. I can't see A.J. Green ending up anywhere but Cincinnati, especially if they draft Joe Burrow, which I expect them to do. They're going to want him to have a big-time target to get the football to, so I don't see him being available. You see Amari Cooper on this list, Randall Cobb. There are a couple of guys up there. Again, those guys I think end up back where they were last year. Brashad Perriman had a pretty solid year in Tampa Bay, but again, I'm the Redskins. Robbie Anderson is really interesting to me. That's a guy that I think vertically stretches the football field, but I think he's done a really good job of making himself into a better route runner. And so I think there is value in Robbie Anderson, but again, if I'm the Redskins, I think I'm looking to address it with another young wide receiver. We'll see what they decide to do, but we'll continue down the list of wideouts. And you look at this next group, and again, as you can get deeper into these groups of receivers, as with every other position in free agency, the further you get into that group, the less intrigued you are by the names that show up. Nelson Aguilar is in the division. You guys know him all too well. Eagles fans can't get rid of him fast enough. That's not a guy that excites me. You look at the rest of these guys, Josh Gordon, I've all but given up on him staying clean off the field. Whatever issues he has, whatever demons he's fighting, he seems to continue to lose that battle. I can do nothing but pray for him and hope that he gets his life in order. But as far as football is concerned, I've all but given up on him. As you look down the rest of these names, Jermaine Kearse was a guy that I was interested in like 2 years ago. No longer am I interested. And so you look at these guys, Tavon Austin, Cody Latimer. These guys don't move the needle for me whatsoever. So you get to the next. Look at a former Redskin, a former family member in Ryan Grant down at the bottom of that list. I know you guys are like, ugh. And so am I. Let's keep moving, though. As we continue through these receivers, again, it's not going to get any better, okay? So you see where this is going. You see where this is trending. None of these guys really excite you. Damiere Byrd is an ex-Carolina Panther, so you never know. They might try to kick the tires again. Anytime that a guy has Carolina Panthers ties, you've got to consider that guy in the mix. Although, again, I'm not going to just say, oh, well, he was in Carolina, then he's probably going to end up here. That shouldn't be the case, but can't rule that out after what we've seen in the front office and with the coaching staff as we get through more receivers. Again, not much here. Once you get to the back end of this list, it becomes more and more underwhelming. So, as I mentioned, not a lot there, at the receiver department as we then move on to the tight ends, which is probably what you guys want to see the most because it's probably our biggest position of need right now. And what I did with this particular position, because it was such a vital position to our free agency hopes, I ordered this. All right, so I reconfigured this, and I want to thank the good old folks over at Sports Track, because Sport Track is where I got all of these free agents and all these lists from, and so want to give them a shout out. But what I did was I ordered this in the amount of snaps that this particular player took in 2019. So the guys with the most snaps are at the top. Generally, the way Sport Track does it is the guys that earn the most, they're in the order of the highest salary to the lowest. I ordered it from, in this particular group, the most snaps taken, because at the tight end position, we're going to need a guy that can play a lot of snaps. We're going to need a guy that doesn't have to come off the field. We'd like to have a guy that can block and catch the football. Look, beggars can't be choosers. If you tell me, look, I'm going to give you a pass-catching tight end, you're going to have to find a blocker elsewhere. Okay, that's fine. I'm cool with that. I know some of you are like, nah, I prefer a guy that can do both. Look, I want a mismatch guy. I want someone that's going to create some avenues and some easy windows for Dwayne Haskins to throw the football to. If you tell me I got to take them and separate them, one's a blocking, one's a pass catcher, whatever, I just need a guy that I can count on to move the sticks for this offense. We didn't have that really at all last season. But you look at this list, Jason Witten's played the most snaps. Can you believe that? Old man Witten playing the most snaps of any tight end that's a free agent in the upcoming season. Darren Fells was really good for the Texans this year. Austin Hooper is a guy that we are all intrigued by. I can't see any way in which the Atlanta Falcons allow him to walk out of the door. Vance McDonald took a bunch of snaps for the Steelers. He has a club option, however. That's why he's in red. So the team could exercise that option, and he could be back in Pittsburgh. We'll see what happens there. Hunter Henry is a guy that we all have talked about on various occasions this offseason, as a guy that we would like to see the Redskins take a stab at. Again, he's had some injury concerns, right? But if I'm the Los Angeles Chargers and I feel good about Hunter Henry, he's a guy that I would most likely want back in my locker room. We'll see what happens there. As you continue down the list of these guys, Jacob Hollister, I thought, did some really good things in Seattle, but he's just strictly a pass-catching threat at this point. Tyler Eifert, his best days are behind him. Mercedes Lewis is an old man. He's a dinosaur in NFL years at the tight end position. As you continue on down this list, though, Benjamin Watson, another fossil in this league, he didn't want to play for the Redskins anyway. And so you keep going down this list. Blake Bell, Charles Clay. We'll get to the next group of tight ends here. And when you look at this group here, there are some guys that jump off the page. None bigger, obviously, than Eric Ebron as you get about 6 names down. That's the guy that a lot of people like. Now, again, not much of a blocker is Eric Ebron, but a hell of a pass catcher when he is healthy. That's been one of his bugaboos throughout his career, his health. So, again, as you look at this list, hopefully we don't have a lot of technical difficulties. We were having some earlier before I started the stream, which is why I had to push it back a little bit. So bear with me if there are a few technical difficulties. Hopefully we're able to navigate those and get this stream all the way through. But as I was saying, not a lot of guys here that get you excited at the tight end position. Even you see Vernon Davis towards the bottom of this list here as we get to the last list of tight ends. Again, not a lot of guys that get you excited about the tight end position. So once again, if you don't get one of those top level tight ends, you're probably stuck, in terms of having to really go and get someone in the draft. And I think the Redskins need 2 tight ends, not 1, but 2 this offseason to come in and compete And they're probably going to end up signing an undrafted rookie or two to come in at the tight end position and compete. But you want a guy that you know is going to be on this football team. And, I think you need two of them, really. I think it'd be nice to get one in free agency and then double down and get another one via the draft. But we'll see what the Redskins decide to do. But that's the tight end position in a nutshell. I'd love to see what you guys have to say about the tight end position. Let's move on to left tackle. It's not a lot here. It's never a lot in this particular category. As we go to left tackle, look, this is it. 10 guys that are available via free agency at the left tackle position. So this tells you that, one, there isn't a lot out there. All right. Two, if Trent doesn't come back or we don't want Trent back, either or, that the draft is the only option at left tackle. There isn't, okay, let's go and get one of these guys as a stopgap. You're not going to find a stopgap. We got lucky last year with Donald Penn. And maybe Donald could come back and give us one more quality year if we weren't able to get a guy that was ready to go in the draft right away. But bottom line is, you got to get a guy. You got to get a guy in the draft if Trent isn't back. I think Trent's going to be back, but you just don't know. I don't know what the Redskins are going to be willing to pay him. I don't know if Trent says to himself, look, I got 1 year left until I get to free agency. I can smell free agency. I got one big contract left in me, and I don't want to risk that. So I'll play out your 1 year left, but I need that money guaranteed to me. Even if that's the case, you may need to draft a guy in the third round and have him develop. And so there are a lot of different scenarios how this thing could play out. Trent could say, yeah, I'll play my last year, just guarantee it. Guarantee me my $12 million, and I'll play this last year in Washington. But after that, I'm hitting free agency to try to maximize my last contract, and that may not be here in Washington. And if that's not, you have to prepare yourself for every situation. And so if you have Trent back for just one more year, you got to say to yourself, man, I probably need to draft a guy, whether it's in the second, third, fourth, whatever round. And I know I'm aware that we don't have a second round pick at this very moment. Doesn't mean we won't have a second round pick when the draft rolls around. But in any event, that's the left tackle position. All right, now some of you, and I did this for some of you out there that have been complaining about right tackle and Morgan Moses. Look, I'm not one for creating holes when there isn't one there, especially when you've got a plethora of holes on this roster. But for you out there that are interested in the right tackle position, here's what this list looks like. I'm just telling you right now, the Redskins aren't getting rid of Morgan Moses, nor should they. All right, you could talk about the false starts and the holding penalties. Bottom line is, he's a quality right tackle, and you can do a hell of a lot worse in this league. All right, if it's not a hole, I'm not trying to create one. All right, if there is no problem, I'm not looking to try to fix it. All right, so Morgan Moses not going anywhere, but this is what the list of right tackles looks like. It's a much better crop than the left tackles, but that being said, are you really willing to spend a ton of money on a right tackle when you're already paying Morgan Moses a ton of money? Don't know what that situation looks like to try to get out of the contract, how much dead money you got to eat, but like I said, you're going to right tackle, left tackle, you're going to pay in this league now. It used to be where, yeah, you could get a right tackle on a much cheaper deal. These guys are getting paid. Maybe not as much as left tackles, but they're getting paid, all right? We see how much guards are getting paid. We know what it's going to take to get Sheriff back here in Washington. It's going to take every bit of $85, $90 million to get him back in D.C., all right? 5 years, probably something like $87, $88 million for Sheriff to stay in Washington. That's for a guard. So just think about how much you're going to have to pay a quality right tackle. So that's the list of right tackles. Well, I got another list here too. And you see, once you get into the back end of this list, and really once you get past the first 5 or 6 names, it starts to get really funky. I mean, T.J. Clemens, he was once a Washington Redskin, if you remember. All right, Marshall Newhouse is horrible. You look down the list of those guys, you don't want to go down that road. And that's why I said, you say what you want about Morgan Moses. He plays every game, just about every snap. He may leave the game 2 or 3 times with injuries, but he always comes back and he sucks it up. Say what you want about Morgan Moses. He's available. All right. And the best ability is availability. In most games, he's available. Okay. So that's that. As we get to the defensive side of the football, here we're looking at inside linebackers. That's another position. I just did the Reuben Foster video earlier this week. And so I don't really know what to expect from him and what we think is going to take place with him. I can just say this much. Don't know when he's going to be available. Don't know what the Redskins are going to decide to do. But at the end of the day, you're probably going to need some depth there. Whether you decide to do it in the draft or you decide to do it via free agency, you're going to probably need some depth. And this is inside linebackers that we're talking about here. Danny Trevathan, Kyle Van Noy, Wesley Woodyard, Corey Littleton is a guy we talked about already. Joe Schobert was another guy we talked about. He's on the next list as we get to the next list of inside backers. So you look at this list here. Will Compton is on the list. I mean, like I said, with most of these lists, as you get deeper and deeper into the list, it becomes less and less appetizing. But there are some names at the bottom of this list, too, that are noteworthy. But, again, not a lot of guys that get you really excited. I remember when Stephon Anthony came out of Clemson and was drafted by New Orleans in the first round. I thought this guy was going to be a stud. Man, was I wrong about him. I don't even know what happened to him in New Orleans, but it didn't take them long to figure out that he couldn't play, whatever the case may be. As we continue down this list of backers, I talked about Joe Schobert. He's the first name on this final list of inside backers, a guy that has played some quality ball for the Cleveland Browns. But, again, looking down this list, not a lot of guys that really move the needle. So it'll be interesting once, the Redskins assess their situation, assess the draft, kind of figure out what they want to do. And obviously the health of Reuben Foster will maybe be a determining factor as to how aggressive they are in either the draft or free agency. If I were them, I'd make sure that, John Bostic is also on this list as well. But I'd probably err on the side of caution and just go ahead and add some depth, whether it's just bringing back John Bostic. You got to see what they decide to do. But nonetheless, we digress and we move on to the cornerback position. This is another position of need for the Redskins. I'm not blown away by this group, but then again, I'm not blown away by just about any other group outside of quarterback, really, for free agency. And the question to me is, do you want to spend on free agency and guys that aren't Redskins, or do you want to spend on your own? I kind of lean towards, hey, I much rather take care of the guys currently in this locker room that need to be paid. And don't forget, just because we got money doesn't mean we need to spend money. We got guys that are going to be free agents, moving forward. Like, this isn't the only year of free agency. All right, there are future free agency classes to come that are going to include some of our young, talented football players that we would like to keep. So don't end up like the Oakland Raiders. Spend your money frivolously, overspend on bringing in guys from the outside, and then when it becomes time to re-sign Khalil Mack, you have no money to do so. Make sure that if it is a guy you sign him to a very cost-effective and efficient contract. So, I'd love to take care of Sheriff and take care of Eric Flowers and some of those guys. I'd love to bring those guys back, but going outside and looking for a corner, corners are really pricey normally. None of these guys really move the needle for me. I am a Chris Harris guy. Love what he brings to the table. But if I'm Chris Harris, I don't know. Maybe Chris is just trying to get paid. So I don't know, because he's already won a Super Bowl. So I don't know if he's chasing a ring or an opportunity to win one because he's already won. I think he's probably at that point of his career where he's looking to get paid. He's a name that definitely intrigues me. Does Chris Harris. But Bradley Roby, I thought actually played pretty well for Houston this past year. Don't know what the Texans are thinking about there, whether they're going to try to keep him or not. But we move on. Trey Waynes, he's hit or miss. He's hot and cold. As we move on to the next list of corners,
I look at this list and Bashaud Breeland is on this list. I know a lot of Redskins fans asked about him wanting to come back. And it was an interesting tweet by Dunny who pretty much said he didn't think neither one of those guys, in Bashaud Breeland and a guy that's further down this list, in Fuller, would want to come back here. I don't think either one of them would want to come back. Even though the last administration is pretty much gone, I don't think either one of them want to come back here either. I guess if the money were right, they would. But I don't foresee either one of those guys wanting to come back to Washington. Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie also on this list. Yikes. As you continue through this list of corners, James Bradbury is interesting in Carolina. I don't know what, and remember that's a Ron Rivera guy. All right, they drafted him in Carolina. He was a part of that group that drafted him. He's played some good ball. I thought at the beginning of this season, and I didn't really follow him as closely after about week 6, but I thought at the beginning of this season, he was playing some outstanding football, was James Bradbury. So that's an interesting name that if the Redskins are aggressive and active in free agency and the Panthers aren't really hell-bent on bringing him back, I wouldn't be shocked if they kick the tires on James Bradbury, a corner that I think is just hitting his prime as a cornerback in this league. Not really sure how they feel about him, but that's a name to keep an eye on for good reason. Not like the other guys from Carolina where you just throw it out there because they played for the Panthers last year. He was actually a guy that was ascending at one point this season as we get to the next crop of corners. Again, we're going to scroll through these quickly because not a lot of guys here that, like I've said numerous times, moves the needle for me. And as you get deeper into these lists, as I've mentioned before, not a lot of guys that, make you want to jump up and say, sign him now. Here's a name here in Emmanuel Mosley, the third name on this list. This is a guy that the 49ers plugged in to start in the playoffs and has played a lot of ball for them when Akello Witherspoon got injured. And Witherspoon struggled down the stretch of the season. They benched him versus Seattle in Week 17 because he was struggling. They benched him versus the Minnesota Vikings. Kirk Cousins got him for a touchdown pass first quarter of the game. Matter of fact, first possession of the game. A deep one to Stephon Diggs. They benched Akello Witherspoon and put in Emmanuel Mosley, and I thought he responded really well. And if I'm San Francisco, I want this guy back, and they have exclusive. So another young corner that I thought got an opportunity to play this year and played actually well at times, and maybe Buffalo Bills fans will beg to differ, but every time I watched Levi Wallace, I was actually impressed with what I saw from him. Young corner out of Alabama, got his opportunity this year to play and start opposite of a guy that was one of the best corners in all of football, in Tre'Davious White. So, he was getting targeted, and I thought he actually did some good things. Yeah, there were some PIs. Yeah, he got beat a couple of times, but I thought he battled and scrapped and played well. So he's another guy to keep your eye on as a free agent, but again, exclusive rights free agent. Highly unlikely he ends up anywhere but Buffalo. So we'll see what happens there. But the final group of free agents that we want to take a look at, safety position. I don't know what the Redskins are going to decide to do at the safety position. How does the new staff evaluate some of these safeties? What do they think about Monte Nicholson? Is that a guy that they want on this roster moving forward? What do they think about Troy Apke? Are they going to continue with the Troy Apke experiment? Or are they going to cut their losses and move forward? I don't know. And so safety position could look vastly different next year. Here are some of the names that may make it look different. Looking at this list, Carl Joseph is a young guy that we were all blown away by coming out of West Virginia. Not really sure what he was doing out in Oakland, so I can't tell you how good or bad he was. They decided not to keep him in Oakland, and so we'll see what happens with him. I know a lot of Redskins fans over the years, Trey Boston. Well, he's available again, and there's a reason he continues to be available now. He was in Carolina multiple times under Ron Rivera. That's something to keep an eye on, keep in mind, but there's a reason this guy continues to be available. I don't know what that is, but I'm just telling you, there's a reason that every free agency period, Trey Boston is on the streets, and after it's done, he's still not signed. And as we get closer to the season, he's still not signed. And then once we get to week 2 or 3 and injuries hit, then he gets signed. I can't explain that. So this is what the list of safeties and probably, the better crop of them, what it looks like. Jimmy Ward is an interesting guy on this list, but I digress as we move on to some more names on the list of safeties. Again, once you get past that first wave of safeties, not a lot of these guys really get you excited, and it's part of the reason why I want the Redskins to do the bulk of their damage via the draft. And again, it's why I say you just supplement your roster with free agents, and you got to be picky in free agency. Got to be picky. You got to choose wisely how you spend your money. I hate to keep referencing Green Bay and what they did last year, but that's how you want to use free agency. They didn't do a ton in free agency, but the moves that they did make, very, very impactful. And so this is the list of the remaining safeties here. As you see, DJ Swearinger. And look, I'm going to just tell you right now, a lot of you are hell-bent on DJ Swearinger coming back, and you wish he would have never left the first time. DJ's gone, and DJ doesn't need to come back. And so, and I liked DJ while he was here. But I could see that there was dissension in the locker room. And, guys like Jonathan Allen weren't really appreciative of the comments that DJ was making on a weekly basis. I don't know how welcomed he would be back into the locker room. So, and DJ's not getting any younger either. All right. But with that being said, that's your list of safeties, and really that's your list of free agents. So I'm going to start jumping into the comment section. I'm going to open up the phone lines to you guys, and it's 9:15. So we're going to go until at least 10. We may go a little bit longer depending on how the conversation of the night is going. But right now, let's just shoot for 10 o'clock. So phone lines are now open. Going to read some of the comments. Tony Lowe says, Lou, can you explain what the Air Coryell offense is? Heard we're switching over to that. So all essentially that is we've been in the West Coast offense. And the West Coast offense is really a short passing game. Get the football out of your hands quickly. And there are different variations of the West Coast offense. But the main staple of the West Coast offense is the short passing game becoming an extension of the run game. Getting the football out of the quarterback's hands quickly. That's why Kirk Cousins was so adept in the West Coast offense under Jay Gruden, because it was basically get the ball out of your hands. Know where the ball's going pre-snap. Know what the defense is in, and get the football out of your hands quickly. The Air Coryell offense, a lot of deeper drops, a lot of pushing the football down the field. You're looking to attack the defense vertically in the Air Coryell offense. You're not looking for a lot of dink and dunks. Yeah, there are some outlets and ways to get the football out of your hands quickly, but you're looking to stretch the football field vertically. You're looking to get chunk plays. North Turner, the Troy Aikman used to always talk about how he loved North Turner's system because it allowed him to stretch the football field vertically. It was a lot of chunk plays in there, 15, 20, 25, 30-yard strikes in that offense because it's a lot of deeper routes. You're looking to push the football down the field. And so that's more along the lines of what you're looking to do. And so a lot of 5- and 7-step drops in that kind of offensive attack. So you got to be able to protect it up well. But that's that's the meat and potatoes of it. I mean, there are some intricacies that we could get into, but that's the basis of what it is. You're just looking to stretch the football field vertically more often in that kind of offensive style. You're going to be pushing the football down the field. JJ Rockstar R-rated says, should we offer Austin Hooper? I would. I said that's a guy that really moves the needle for me. But again, I can't see any way that the Atlanta Falcons allow him out of their building. I just don't. And with the tight end position being one that you don't have to pay a ton of money to, you could easily franchise a guy and then try to work out a long-term deal. So I think that tight end market is about to become reset, because once guys like Travis Kelce and George Kittle hit the market, and I think that's next year, once those guys hit the market, big free agent dollars are going to be spent to keep those guys in their respective teams. So that's when you're going to start to see that number for tight ends move up a bit, and that's when it'll become harder to franchise tag some of these free agent tight ends. But right now, I think you can get away with franchising a tight end and not feeling bad for doing so right now. Got a call, gonna go ahead and take it. You're on live with your man Louis T. Who am I speaking with?
Hey, this is Larry Mills from Kansas City. How's it going, LT?
Hey, what's going on, Larry?
Not much, man. Hey, first things first, I just want to say I really appreciate you holding it down for DMV.
Yep.
And for all kinds of Redskins fans around the United States, such as myself. So I just want to get that out the way.
Appreciate you, no doubt.
So first things first, I just want to talk about the offense. Because I got a feeling they're going to do damage in the draft. Mm-hmm. So I'm kind of feeling like Austin Hooper would be a big help in for our offense. He kind of reminds me like a Witten type individual. Mm-hmm. He's not going to blow you away with his athletics or something like that, but he kind of gives me that Witten feel where he can do a little bit of blocking, but he kind of just does his job,
Yep.
and nothing over the top. And I kind of wonder what your feeling on him is do you feel like he was getting open because of the receiver squad that he was running with, or do you feel like he his skills have some merit and could actually bring something to this offense?
Oh no, I'm a huge Austin Hooper fan. I was coming out of Stanford. Like Austin Hooper, as you mentioned, he's not flashy, he's not extravagant, he's not the 4 or 5 guy. Not gonna blow you away with athleticism or quicks or any of that stuff. He just knows how to get open. Whether it's zone, man to man, he knows the tricks of the trade. Little nudge here at the stem of the route to lean on that corner or that safety just to push him inside a bit so he can break outside. He just knows how to get open, man. And some of it you can't ignore the fact that he had 2 studs on the outside in Calvin Ridley and Julio. But the guy's talented, no doubt about it. I, like you, would love to see a guy like Austin Hooper added to this offense. I think it's the kind of player that we're missing, a guy that you can count on 3rd and 7 to catch an 8-yard pass. And if you fall asleep behind the wheel on this guy, he can get you for 35. You know what I mean? But at the same time, I don't see any way the Falcons don't see what we see. And he was their best. At times, he was their best offensive weapon. That's saying a lot when they had Julio and Calvin Ridley on that football team. But at times, he was the best option they had. I can't see any way that the Falcons allow Austin Hooper out of their building.
Yeah, I hear you. Another thing about, with drafting a tight end, it's still an undervalued position.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
You're going to get a lot, for your money, no matter, who you get. Mm-hmm. So, I'm with you on that. The other person I was interested in, though, is Funchess. Mm-hmm. I know there's a lot of people, on the fence for this guy, but, when I watched him in North Carolina, he was running with a solid receiving core there as well. And I don't know if he was, just kind of got small in the lights, but he seems interesting to me.
So you said at Carolina, you talking about Devin Funchess or you talking about Eric Ebron? Are we still?
I'm talking about Devin Funchess. I'm right. He's in Indianapolis.
Yeah. Okay. So with Funchess, he got hurt last year. That was the problem in Indy. That's why you didn't hear anything about him last year. Now in Carolina, he was hit or miss because when Devin Funchess was on, he was a problem. Problem is there were games. I remember 2 years ago, his last year in Carolina against Detroit, there were like 5 drops in that game. So
when he gets in his own head and he starts to drop the football and then, he gets into a little bit of a rut, it could be problematic for him. He can get inside his own head. But when this guy is dialed in with his size, sneaky athleticism, and length, he's one of those guys that can offer you something at the receiver position. And again, I hate to keep doing this, and I hate to keep beating this horse, but he's an ex-Carolina Panther, so you can't rule anything out.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Last person I'm just going to comment, and then I'm going to go. Sheriff, I feel like when you got these offensive linemen coming out of the draft, they're really high, and they get this stigma that, they must be the best. And I kind of feel like Sheriff has been overrated for quite a while. Like Moses pumps him up all the time. If you ask me, he can kick rocks. So I'll leave that with you, and I'll take off on the call.
Hey, thanks a lot, Larry, man. You have a good one, man. Take care.
All right, you too. Bye.
All right, so Larry isn't all that impressed with Brandon Sheriff. I tend to disagree. Now, I will say that of late, Sheriff has received some of that treatment that we see very often in this league with guys that end up with a reputation. So, what happened for Sheriff is that he went to a Pro Bowl. He's on a team that's not very good, and when you're one of the few good players on a team, and look, Sheriff was really good 2 years ago. Really, really good. Injuries have really reduced him to slightly above average the last couple of seasons. But when he's healthy, he's still one of the best guards in football. Let's keep it in its proper perspective. Year rookie contract, and then I got a super chat. I'm going to get to that here in a second. But I said this before. All right, so I'll say it again. I felt like it was an odd man out situation. Three guards for two positions. You got Wes Martin, who I thought played extremely well down the stretch last season, and pretty much, to me, earned the right to be in a competition to start in 2020. There was Eric Flowers, who you could argue was the most consistent offensive lineman we had last year. We had on the line last season. And then there's Brandon Sheriff, who had another injury-plagued season. So the way I see it, there's three guards for two positions. I think you can get Eric Flowers back on an $8 to $9 million deal. So 3 years, $27 million, something like that. 4 years, $32 million, 4 years, $35 million, something like that. I think you can get a deal done with Flowers for something like that. Wes Martin is on the second year of a 4-year rookie contract. Cheap labor, not going anywhere. And then there's Sheriff, who, if you want him, 5 years, let's call it $90 million. That's probably what it's going to take, realistically. You can say what you want about the money. That's a separate issue. But you also have to take into consideration the locker room component. Guys that are here want to see other guys that play and perform well here get paid here. There hasn't been enough of that in Washington. There only have been a select few that have been paid here in Washington. The numbers of guys that were drafted here and had to get paid elsewhere or ended up elsewhere, those numbers are staggering. All right? So there's something to be said about guys seeing other guys in the locker room perform well and be rewarded here for that. Not to mention, Brandon Sheriff is the type of guy that you want to help establish a culture in your locker room. He's one of those types of guys. Plays injured, tough guy. With this new offense, I think he's going to fit in really well. I want Sheriff back. I understand that the money could be an issue for some of you out there. That's fine. But for me, I get it. It's a guard. But that's now the going rate for elite guards. You want to know why the Cowboys' offensive line is so good? They pay their offensive linemen. Guard, center, it doesn't matter. They pay them. You can't want to be elite up front, and then when it comes time to shell out elite money, you don't want to pay. That's all I'm saying. But as the last caller said, Larry said he doesn't view Sheriff as elite.
If you don't think Sheriff is elite, if you don't think he's elite, you can't pay him $90 million. I think he's elite. When healthy, I think he's elite. If you don't think he's elite, then you can't pay him $90 million. It's that simple. If they look at the tape and they evaluate Sheriff and they don't see elite football player, then you can't pay him $90 million. It's really simple. All right, I have a super chat, so I want to go ahead and get to that. All right, and the super chat is from Evan Higgins, and he doesn't say anything. He just wanted to bless me with a super chat. Thank you so much, Evan Higgins, for the super chat. Greatly appreciate it, man. Thank you so much. All right, so appreciate that. Let's get back to, oh my gosh. It got rid of a bunch of comments just now. All right, so what I'm going to do is try and pull up all of the comments. And see if I can get them back. Because I would feel really bad. Because there were a lot of comments that were at the beginning of this that I missed. And I do have a call coming in. I want to try to get this comment section straight, though, if at all possible. All right, now I can't even. Yeah, I can't even get to the top of it. I apologize for that, guys. Anyhow. All right. Got a call. I'm going to go ahead and take it. You're on. Missed that call. All right. So, what's going on here? All right. So, had an issue with the comment section, so I'm going to try to pull it back up and try to get to some of these comments. But the way I look at it is this offseason, it's a new regime, and you could see a lot of turnover on this roster. That's always the thing you have to keep in mind when you get a new coaching staff in, new front office, a lot of new faces, is that you got to know that a lot of these guys aren't their guys. And they're not guys that they particularly love. And so if they can cut bait with some of these guys and bring in guys that they either trust or like, you're going to see that. So you best believe that there will be some guys that get cut this offseason. It's not going to shock me to see some guys that we weren't expecting to see get cut. So, all right, got the chat back up. I don't think it's going to let me go all the way back to the top, but I have a super chat anyway, so I'm going to get to that. This one from Farrah Cody. Thank you so much for the super chat, Farrah Cody. And it says, why? All right. All right. Sorry about that. I told you guys that having some technical difficulties was having some prior to the stream. So hopefully we have navigated that. But nonetheless, Farrah Cody, once again, thank you for the super chat. And Farrah Cody says, why do people think A.J. Brown is better than Terri McLaurin? I don't. It's an opinion. You know, it is what it is. A.J.'s bigger. A.J. had a better year. Statistically, Terri might have had better numbers from a yard standpoint. I don't know if A.J. made it over 1,000. Let's see. I know AJ had bigger games, and AJ had more production down the stretch of the season. But remember, this is what you got to remember too. And let's look up AJ Brown's rookie numbers this year and see what he did this season. AJ Brown did have 1,000 yards receiving this year. So, and I know a lot of you will say, well, if Terri doesn't get hurt week 16 versus the Giants, then or week week 15 versus the Giants, or was it the Eagles game he got hurt in? Either way, he would have hit 1,000 yards receiving. I think it was that Giants game he got hurt in, if I'm not mistaken, week 16. But anyway, doesn't matter. It's opinion. AJ Brown was rated higher than Terri coming out of the draft, and so it's going to be hard to change that narrative. It's not uncommon that when a guy is rated higher, there's a higher opinion of him, and it kind of sticks. Similar to draft picks. You know what I mean? When a guy gets drafted in the first round versus a guy that gets drafted in the fourth round, the guy in the first round is going to get more opportunities to play initially because he was a first-round pick. It's just how it goes. And so some people who aren't paying attention are going to just automatically think A.J. Brown, because he was a first-round wide receiver, is the better of the two. But, you know, or what was he a first-round or a second-round receiver? I think he might have been a second-round wide receiver. Either way, bottom line is he was a second-round wide receiver. Bottom line is, to each its own. I think Terry's a hell of a wide receiver. I think we got more than we bargained for. But right now, if you ask me to pick between the two, I don't know. I might take AJ Brown. I think Terry's ceiling is higher than AJ Brown's. But if you're talking about size, body type, AJ Brown has the type of body that would last much longer in this league than Terri McLaurin does. So I probably would take AJ Brown. Bigger, physical receiver. We've seen him run this year. He can run for his size. But if someone wants to argue and you believe Terry's better, then that no one's going to be able to change your mind on that. So it is what it is. And you're not going to be able to change their mind if they think AJ Brown is better. Let's get back up to the comment section. Just Andre says, what free agents do you want the most for the Skins? Got a call. Going to go ahead and take it. We'll come back to that question. Hopefully I don't forget, and hopefully it's not gone. You're on live with your man Louis T. Who am I speaking with?
Yeah, I'm Sai from California, so it's a pretty long way from DC. But I don't know if you've addressed this on your show before, but what do you address the tight end position in like the early rounds by maybe like trading away Trent Williams for like a second round pick, or would you want to like spend time and maybe find like a hidden gem late in the rounds and draft maybe like a cornerback or offensive lineman in the mid rounds?
I think you just got to go with the flow of the draft. Honestly speaking, I think there are gems in the draft all the time. You can't go in just hoping to find gems. Like, you can't expect to find a George Kittle in the 5th round. Like, you can't go in thinking that's what you're going to do. You hope to uncover one of those. Like, we got lucky with Terry last year in the 3rd round. Really, we really did. And you can't assume that that's going to be the case every year. Oh, yeah, we'll just get one in the 3rd round and he'll be really good. Like, it's hit or miss in this league. And you just got to hope that, there's a couple of really quality tight ends when you get there, 3rd, 4th, 5th round, somewhere in there, and you're able to pluck one or two of those guys. But to me, if you somehow are able to recoup a 2nd round pick and the Trent Williams situation, which we'll already know by then if Trent's going to be on this team or not. We'll know by draft day. So that's not something that'll still be in limbo. Either he'll be here and we'll know he's going to be here, or we would have traded him already. One or the other. But if you don't have Trent and you got a second-round pick back for him, let's just say you traded for a second-round pick, you probably need to use that second-round pick on a tackle. Probably what you need to do. If, let's say, Trent's back and you don't have a second-round pick, now that frees you up to maybe go tight end third or fourth round. So, but you got to go off the board. You got to go best player available, and you just see what happens, really.
Yeah, so, and do you see Hale Hentges or just say like a Jeremy Sprinkle? Would you like keep one and then like draft one and then maybe get Austin Hooper from free agency? Was that your, plan for the tight end position?
Yeah, I mean that's like I said. I think we need two bodies. Whether one comes via the draft, one comes via free agency, or both come from the draft. I can't see us going out and getting two tight ends in free agency, but if we could get a big name guy in free agency, that would be awesome. And then come back and get another guy in the draft, that would be great. And then I told you this, I think on a stream ago or maybe two, I said, look, Hale Hentges has impressed me down the stretch of the season. Saw some really good things from him. And I said, man, there's a future for him in this league as, at best, a second tight end, at worst, a third option on a team. I think Hale Hentges and Jeremy Sprinkle both get an invite to camp, and you let those two battle it out for one spot. That's the way I would do it, is I would have my first two tight end positions already spoken for. And then, the last position, if I'm only carrying three guys, I let those guys battle it out. And, you may add a couple of undrafted guys that come in and they wow you, and you throw them in the mix as well. You never know.
Yeah, and I'm sorry for dragging it too long, but what's your expectations of Bryce Love this season? Do you think he needs to be productive, or can he just play a solid Chris Thompson type role for the season and you'll be all right with it?
You know what? I think that the health of Darius Geis will play a huge part into that, because if Geis is healthy, we won't look for Bryce Love to be anything other than a Chris Thompson change of pace type of back. We won't look for him to be that stud that comes in and touches it 22 times in a game. Maybe 18 on the ground and another 4 catches through the air. If Darius Geis is healthy, then he'll be allowed to play that Chris Thompson role. But if Darius Geis is injured again and we're just left with Adrian Peterson, then we'll be clamoring for Bryce Love to get the football a little bit more. So I think it all depends on the health of Darius Geis, to be honest with you. I want him to be in that Chris Thompson role. I do not want to overexpose him back there. But the guy was a bell cow at Stanford. It's not like he can't handle it. But I would prefer him to be in that Chris Thompson role, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and then just say Bryce Love can't come back, and Darius Geis, you may not fully trust him to play a full 16-game season. Mm-hmm. Would you look to possibly get back CT, or would you maybe get a late draft running back?
That's an intriguing question. That's a really, really fascinating dynamic, because I think, first of all, you have to make up your mind on Chris Thompson, because I think if you don't make up your mind, I think they already have made up their mind, but if you don't make up your mind, he's going to be gone in free agency. So we'll know whether he'll be back or not by the time we get to the draft. I think he's going to go out to L.A. personally with the Rams, because Sean McVay knows him and knows what he's capable of. But or he could end up in Jacksonville with the Jaguars now that Jay Gruden's there. That makes a lot of sense as well. But either way, when I look at that position, I think they're going to feel like Geis is going to be healthy. I think they feel like Bryce Love is going to be a guy that can contribute this year. I don't expect him to do much to the running back position. I really don't. And you know what, too? There was another guy, the Ferguson guy, late in the season.
Oh, yeah.
Saw some things out of him. Yeah, Josh Ferguson. I saw some things out of him. Don't know if he's still around and, kind of lingering around the roster or whatever the case may be. But if he's still a guy that is in the mix, I wouldn't be I wouldn't feel bad about them taking a nice hard look at him this offseason as well.
Yeah, and potentially about Reuben Foster, we know what happened to him, his knee, his ACL, right? Was it ACL?
Yep.
Is it ACL?
ACL, MCL, LCL, all
Yeah,
of them. Yep.
yeah, everything, pretty
Yep.
much. And we know what he's pretty much the centerpiece of our, linebacking core. And do you possibly see maybe like an alternative, like backup, like maybe somewhere in free agency or in the draft that could maybe like be a suitable replacement from him if he doesn't? Hopefully he comes back, but like prepare for the worst, that type.
It's interesting because when you look at that list, there are some guys on that list that can run. Some guys that I think they feel like could come in and help right away. But then again, there aren't any Reuben Fosters on that list either. So, there aren't many former first round picks just out there lingering around for you to snatch up. So it'll be interesting. I didn't see anyone on the list that blew me away. I think Corey Littleton's a hell of a football player. I do.
Yeah.
Do you want to pay Corey Littleton is a question, because I think he's going to get some. I think he's going to get some interest. I don't think he's going to get, nor do I think anybody else is in free agency this year. But I don't think he's going to get C.J. Mosley money. But I think he's going to get a pretty penny in free agency. And do you want to be the team that pays him, knowing that there's a guy that could potentially be ready to go for you at some point this season? It could even be week 1 for all we know with Reuben Foster. I just don't see them over-investing in the position. If they get someone, it'll be a stopgap player like John Bostic, somebody cheap that's capable, that they feel like can run the defense and give them a shot while they wait for Reuben Foster to get healthy. So that's what I think they would do.
Yeah, so lots of interesting decisions to make. I can't wait for preseason to start right now, but
yeah, we're a long way away from that. But I'm with you, man. It's so exciting, but we're so far away. You know what I mean? But hey, thanks for calling in, man. You have a good night. Take care.
Yeah, you too. Thank you too.
So, a lot of good questions there. A lot of good scenarios posed there. Just Andre, want to get to your free agent comment though, because I said we were going to come back to that. So, just Andre says, what free agents do you want for the most for the Skins? Honestly speaking, my biggest free agent want is a tight end. And I really only want 2. And I know some of you are not big on Hunter Henry because of his injury history, and you're tired of getting guys that have injury issues, because what they do is they come here and they continue with their injury issues. But I'd like Hunter Henry. And I think Austin Hooper is another guy that I would be really interested in. I'm not really big on Eric Ebron, but if we signed him, I wouldn't be opposed to it. Outside of those 3 tight ends, though, not really too big on any of the other guys. And then as I look at some of those other positions, I wouldn't mind, some of the linebackers. If they brought in a Joe Schobert for, not a lot of money, because I don't think it's going to take a ton of money to sign him. I think Devondre Campbell's going to end up back in Atlanta. I'm not a big Devondre Campbell fan anyway. I'm more of a Corey Littleton guy myself. If he's not back in LA with the Rams, that could be a guy that you take a look at. I would love to bring him in. So if you're asking me, I'd give you my top 3 free agents that I would like the Redskins to take a look at. It would be, in this order, Austin Hooper, Hunter Henry, and then Corey Littleton. Those are the 3 guys that I would target. But got a call, going to go ahead and take it. You're on live with your man, Louis T. Who am I speaking with?
Hey, Louis, how are you?
I'm doing well. What about yourself?
I'm doing good. This is Calvin.
What's going on,
Hey,
Calvin?
I got you may have had this question already, but just hypothetically, if the Dolphins come to the Skins and say, look, we want to move up to number 2 so that we can get Tua.
Right.
And we're willing to give up all 3 of our first-round picks. If you're the Skins, do you say yes?
That's the debate. I honestly think that the Redskins aren't the hot spot in this draft. You know what would have been great is if the Dolphins were number 3.
Right.
Because then we could have said, hey, look, Miami, we'll trade the pick if you don't come get them at number 2. We'll trade it. And then you could move down one spot, still get Chase Young, and just completely, rob them. You know what I mean? Blind.
Yeah.
But the fact that they're sitting there, I believe, at number, 5?
5. Yeah, they're 5.
Is their first of their 3 first-round picks. You're still in the, but this is the thing. You could conceivably mess around at number 5, not get Chase Young, not get Isaiah Simmons, and not get Okudah. And I know that sounds crazy because in order for someone to come up to number 2 and get a quarterback, it would require 2 quarterbacks going in the first 2 picks, and then there will only be 2 position players. So theoretically, you'd have an opportunity to get, one of those guys, you would think.
Right.
But in the same breath, you're like, I think Okudah is a little bit further down the list. I mean, you probably can't go wrong taking him. I think he's a hell of a football player, but that's hard to pass up, 3 first-rounders. But at the same time, I'm all about getting elite stuff.
Yeah.
And, I mean, and Okudah might be elite, but you know what's better than an elite corner?
An elite DN.
Elite pass rusher, exactly. So I'm more inclined to be like, man, you're going to have to sweeten the deal. I know, and 3 first-round picks, that's crazy. And it's crazy for me to say this. I might need more than that to move. Look, and that's probably what I would tell the Dolphins is, look, man, you got me passing on a generational pass rusher so you could get your quarterback. I'm going to need all 3 of your first-rounders, and I'm going to need a second-rounder, and I might need like a 5th or something. Like, I'm going to need you to sweeten this deal as much as possible, almost to the point where they're like, man, I ain't even trying to do business with you.
Hey, they could pull a Mike Ditka from back in the day.
Yeah, and trade their old draft to come up and get to it. Oh man,
I couldn't believe that Ditka did that back in the day.
Hey, look, man,
I
draft to get Ricky Williams, and you know what was crazy about that was like he said, I remember hearing an interview later on down the line. He was like, yo, they literally traded for Ricky Williams, and then they just went home.
Yeah. Dick made the trade, smoked the cigar,
and went home. I mean, it was insane, man. But, it's crazy that they did that. You'll never see anything like that again. Ever.
I don't
Ever.
I don't think so.
I talked about that on my podcast.
And that's the thing, like what you said, an elite pass rusher, that kind of trumps the secondary, because an elite pass rusher is gonna make your secondary look that much.
Right, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Is like you would love to get a Jeffrey Okudah, but at the same time, I'm like, yo, I could turn Dunny into Jeffrey Okudah if I just get an elite rusher to get to the quarterback. And the hope is, and I know a lot of fans don't see it quite this way, but the hope is you draft Chase Young, and because I hear this all the time, well, we're not one player away, so you need to get all the picks you can get. And I hear that argument, you know what I mean? But my counter argument to that is that you draft Chase Young, and the hope is it has a Nick Bosa effect on the rest of the defense.
Right.
Where he's that missing link, and now everyone starts playing to that first round potential. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
All of a sudden now, Payne turns into DeForest Buckner, and Allen or Ioannidis turns into Eric Armstead, and you know what I mean? The list goes on and on and on, and so.
And then you get, Montez
Sweat turning into
on the opposite side,
right, exactly.
Wrecking havoc,
that's what you're looking for, man.
Because he doesn't have to go full Minuski and drop in the
coverage. Exactly. Exactly. And that's the hope, man. So, it'd be pretty tempting if the Dolphins called.
Yeah.
But for me, if I'm the Dolphins, because you don't have to get in front of Detroit.
Right.
Because they're not drafting a quarterback.
Nah.
You
wouldn't think they're drafting a quarterback.
Right.
I mean, I don't see it happening, but you just never. I mean, they could look at it and go, we could draft Tua and sit him for a year for health reasons, and we still got Stafford. Yeah.
That they could do that, but apparently he's supposed to be healthy come April. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what they're saying.
Yeah.
But they're gonna put that out there right now, and and he may be healthy enough to participate in some in
pro day
or something
right.
like that. But I think he won't totally be healthy, for an NFL season. Probably to me, that's what I think for a year.
Yeah, it's interesting to me. The hot spot is 3, not 2.
Yeah.
If I want Tua, I'm not even talking to the Redskins. And they would have to. The Redskins would have to call my bluff and say, you know what? If you don't talk to me, I'll trade it to somebody. Right. No, you're not. I would call. To me, Detroit at number 3 is where the conversation begins, because you got to give up less if you're the Dolphins to just move up 2 spots. It's still you got to give up a lot.
Yeah.
But it's not as much as going up to number 2.
Well, here's another monkey wrench. Let's say Cincinnati does something Cincinnati, and they decide we're not going to take Burrow. We're going to draft Chase Young.
Right.
Then what do you see the Skins doing it too?
Now it becomes a different scenario, because now a lot of teams come into play.
Right.
Because now 2 is the hot spot if that were to take place.
Right.
Because now the Redskins are saying, well, the guy we really wanted is gone, and now we got this, this guy that wasn't supposed to be here sitting here for us to take, and there are a million teams calling us now.
Yeah.
Seeing what it's going to take. Now you got the gun to everybody's head. At this point now, you robbing somebody.
Yeah.
Ski mask, gun, you robbing somebody at this point. So I think that would be the scenario that would take place then. And then there are a lot of people out there that are in the camp of, hey, do you pass on Joe Burrow if he's sitting there?
Yeah.
You take Burrow and let these dudes duke it out like they did at Ohio State once upon a time. So, there's that thought process as well. There's 0% chance Cincinnati passes on Joe Burrow.
I think I agree with you, but with Cincinnati being Cincinnati, there's always that sliver that they're going to do something stupid, but but I agree with you. I don't think they'll pass on Burrow. I mean, but it is something that would be kind of curious, because you got, in a way, both guys have Ohio ties. Chase playing for Ohio State, even though he's from here, and Burrow starting his career at Ohio State. So,
right.
So either way, Cincinnati would be getting somebody that has ties to the state. But, I think they'll stick with Burrow.
I do as well, man.
Yeah.
Hey, I appreciate you calling in, man. That was a great call. You take care.
All right, you too, Louis.
Yeah, no problem.
Take.
Got a super chat from Wahoo Brad 24. Thank you for the super chat, Wahoo Brad 24. He says, "Do you think Anthony Harris would be good for us?" I absolutely love Anthony Harris. Now, did I miss him as a free agent safety on that list? Let me go back to the free agent safeties for a second. First of all, again, somebody's always got their eyes on your stuff. Let's see. Anthony Harris. I don't see him on that first list there. Doesn't mean he's not. That's the last list. Let's see if Anthony Harris is on this second list. He is not on the second list. And then now let's get to the first list, where he probably should be if he is available. There he is, right there, sitting right there in front of my face, and I just missed it. I would absolutely love Anthony Harris, man. That guy was so impressive for the Minnesota Vikings this year. He was outstanding. Thank you for the super chat once again, Wahoo Brad 24. To me, he is a quintessential free safety. He's always around the football. I think this guy is outstanding. Mike Zimmer, there's no way the Vikings – and one thing the Vikings have done a really good job of over the years is taking care of their own. And he just came into his own as a really good free safety. I think they were one of the better tandems in all of football last year. Highly unlikely that they allow him out of that building. And much like the tight end position, even though with the safety contracts that went out last year, I think it kind of bumped up that number for the franchise tag on safeties with the Honey Badger, Landon Collins, and Earl Thomas all getting big deals last year. I don't know what the number is for the safety position on the franchise. Anthony Harris is probably going to be back in Minnesota, but that's a good pull, Wahoo Brad. That's a good pull. That's a really good safety there in Anthony Harris. I missed that one. So yeah, that's a guy that I would definitely be. As a matter of fact, I would go as far as to say I would put him second on my list of free agents. As a matter of fact, so it would be Austin Hooper 1, Anthony Harris 2, then you get to Hunter Henry 3, and then the fourth guy that I would like would be Corey Littleton. So that's how that would go. That's how highly I think of Anthony Harris. But again, I don't see the Vikings allowing him to walk. You're on live with your man Louis T. Who am I speaking with?
Hey Lou, it's Mark.
What's going on, Mark?
I got two things that I want to know your opinion on, man. Should the Redskins go after AJ Green?
I don't think they will. First of all, I don't think Cincinnati allows him out of their building. I think they use the franchise tag on him. But let's just go hypothetically. Let's just say he's available. If I'm the Redskins, I say why not? If he's healthy, why not? I mean, he's still a hell of a football player. Still, to me, got a lot of football left. If he's healthy, I wouldn't have a problem with it. How much is it going to take? And really, I think AJ's got to be at the point of his career where if he's going to leave Cincinnati, it's to contend for a Super Bowl. So does he view Washington as a place where that can be done in a timely manner? Not the next 3-4 years, but like next year? Probably not. But yeah, if I'm the Redskins, I kick the tires on AJ Green.
All right, man, because I'm trying to figure it out. I've been talking to my friends about it. All right. Second, I hear so many people complaining about how we don't have a second round pick. I truly think if we trade Trent, if he doesn't want to stay, only if he doesn't want to stay, or Ryan Kerrigan, we could probably get a second round pick for either one. Probably both if we trade both of them.
So here's the thing. First of all, they're not going to trade Kerrigan. I don't think. I don't see that happening. Now, Trent, on the other hand, that's a really sticky situation because there's so many issues that have to be resolved there. You know, obviously the biggest one was Larry Hess and Bruce Allen being in the organization. Well, they're both gone. But then there's the matter of money. And Trent wants guaranteed money, which he has none left on his contract. If the Redskins aren't willing to pay him that, then, again, he's not going to want to play, so then you have to trade him. Do the Redskins want to do him one year? Do they want to just pay him, guarantee him this 1 year that he has left on his contract, or do they want to go multiple years, and does Trent want to do that? I don't know. Do the Redskins even want to do that? I don't know. Here's the thing. If the Redskins want a second-round pick, the only way they're going to net a second-round pick with the current guys that are available for trade is Trent Williams. There is no other guy outside of Ryan Kerrigan, and I don't think Kerrigan by himself nets you a second-round pick. If you wanted a second-round pick for Ryan Kerrigan, you needed to do that during the season. Last year, during before the trade deadline. I don't think you get a straight-up second-round pick for Ryan Kerrigan at this point. Maybe a third-rounder, but not a second. The only guy that can fetch you a second-round pick back is Trent Williams at this point. And that's the only guy I see the Redskins being able to part ways with straight up and get a second-rounder.
I hear you, man. I just wanted to hear your opinions on the situation, man. Thanks for answering the call, man.
Hey, no problem, man. You have a good one. Take care.
You too, Lou.
Yep. All right. Got another super chat. I'm going to go ahead and take that. Let's see. Andrew Thompson, my man Andrew. What's going on, Drew? Appreciate the super chat, my man. He says, let me thank you once again for the super chat, Andrew Thompson. He says, what do you think of Jason LaCanfour's piece out today about the Brady effect and Derek Carr being the Skins QB next year? What's up with everyone thinking the coaching staff will move on from Haskins? So here's the thing. The Raiders, John Gruden's their head coach. Gruden despises young quarterbacks and absolutely loves veteran quarterbacks. I think he gets an erection when he talks about veteran quarterbacks in the NFL. He'd love to have Brady, Breeze, hell, even Rivers, I think he'd take over Derek Carr. That being said, Carr isn't terrible. But I don't necessarily know if he was the reason they were losing games. He didn't win them games in Oakland last year, but I don't think he was the reason they lost games. But everyone, since Gruden has gotten in Oakland, now Las Vegas, everyone's been trying to replace Derek Carr. The one thing they're not going to do is draft a young quarterback to replace Derek Carr because John Gruden can't stand young quarterbacks. So this Brady effect that LaCanfour talks about is the dominoes can change. If Brady's available and the Raiders get him, now Derek Carr becomes expendable. If Derek Carr becomes expendable, now other teams that maybe weren't looking for a quarterback now become in the market for a quarterback. I don't see, again, the only way, and I stress this time and time again on this show, the only way the Redskins move on from Dwayne Haskins is if he doesn't show the kind of leadership that Ron Rivera and Scott Turner both talked about during their initial interviews and press conferences here in Washington. When Rivera was introduced as the Redskins' next head coach, the first thing that he said was about Dwayne Haskins in the quarterback position as a whole is that guy has to be in the building. He has to be a leader. He has to take command, and he has to know what's going on. He has to put in the work. He has to put in the time. He has to put in the effort. He has to be a leader. Scott Turner, during that conference call, stressed this, all right? Stressed that he's been around young quarterbacks before. He knows what it takes. He's seen what these guys have put in. You have to be the first one in the building, last one to leave. You have to know the playbook in and out. These are the things that he's saying. You have to be around, and guys have to see you being there. They have to know that you're putting in the effort. So they were answering the question, but at the same time, indirectly talking to Dwayne Haskins. Bro, we need to see you. You need to show up. And I don't think that anything that I've seen in the latter portion of the season suggests that he's not going to show up. I think he's going to be there. I think he's going to put in the work. I think he's going to be dedicated and show the leadership qualities that they need to see. So I'm not worried about Dwayne. I'm not. However, if he doesn't, then that's when the Derek Carr names and all of these other guys that could potentially float out there, that's when those names start to come to the forefront and become a real possibility. Right now, I don't see that being the case. I don't. But there is a such thing as a Brady effect, because if Tom Brady does become available, there will be teams vying for his services. And I just went through the quarterback list, and I've done it on my podcast. It's one of the best free agent crops we've ever seen in the NFL's history. You don't get these kind of names available all at once. All right? Drew Brees could be available. Phillip Rivers could be available. Tom Brady could be available. Teddy Bridgewater will be available. Jameis Winston could be available. Marcus Mariota could be available. Or will be available, I should say. Andy Dalton could be available. As you just heard, Derek Carr could be available, because even if it's not Brady, let's say it's Breeze, hell, it could even be Rivers. All right? John Gruden will go after one of those guys because he prefers a veteran quarterback. So I don't think that Haskins is going anywhere, but this is the thing you have to keep in mind. Everyone wants to try to connect dots because Ron Rivera likes veteran players, period. That's his MO. If there's one takeaway from Carolina that you could pretty much etch in stone, I don't know if he's thinking with the same mindset. Maybe he learned his lesson from Carolina. Like, man, there were a couple of times that I stuck with one of these veterans a little bit too long. But for the most part, one of the things that he's done throughout his career is he's rolled with his vets. He likes veteran players because he knows veteran guys knows what it takes to get it done. And they're going to put in the work and they're going to put in the effort. So that's why you keep getting these veteran names thrown out there, because a lot of people think that Haskins isn't willing to put in the work and this, that, and the third. I'm not worried. And honestly, I don't think you should be either. I think Haskins, when it's all said and done, this is the time of the year. I say this all the time when we get to draft season. Believe half of what you see, none of what you hear, even if it's spat by me, your man, Louis T. All right? This is lion season, as I like to call it. It's lion season. You're going to hear a lot of stuff about these prospects. You're going to hear a lot of stuff about free agent rumors. You're going to hear a lot of stuff about this, that, and the third. All right? Believe half of what you see, none of what you hear, even if it's spat by me, your man, Louis T. All right? Just know this. The Redskins invested a first-round pick in Dwayne Haskins last season. Last season, they did that. His final 6 quarters of his rookie season, the man threw for over 1,000 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, over a 70% completion percentage. Okay? Trust me. And I take that back. He didn't throw for over 1,000 yards in his last 6 quarters. He threw for over, let's call it close to 500 yards. Let's call it right around 500 yards. 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, and over a 70% completion percentage. There's talent there. You got to see it at the end of the season. Trust me, they're not moving on from Dwayne Haskins. Unless, let me reiterate this, unless he doesn't show the leadership qualities that they're looking for in their starting quarterback. If he shows up to the facility early and often, he's going to be the Redskins starting quarterback next season. And I firmly believe that. But thank you for the super chat once again, Andrew Thompson. Greatly appreciate it. I'm going to check for any more super chats. Yep, got another one from Justin Hodge. Appreciate the super chat, my man. Thank you so much for the super chat, Justin Hodge. He says, it's your resident Utah Redskins fan. What's going on, Justin? He says, no question tonight, but thanks for the great content. See you next time. I can catch you live. HTTR. Hey, man, appreciate the love all the way from Utah, man. All the way in the Mountain West. Appreciate the love, Justin. Thank you once again for the super chat. So, let's get back to the comment section. I don't see any more super chats, and I don't see any more calls. Oh, I do have a call coming in, so I'm going to take that. You're on live with your man, Louis T. Who am I speaking with?
Rodney Ray.
What's going on, Rodney Ray?
Hey, how you doing, man? I'm going to be real brief. I may call back again, but just want to put a little bit of information out there.
All right.
One, about the Chase Young being the second-round pick. Everybody is talking about these different maneuvers that we can have, and that's all fine and good, but elite pass rushers are hard to pass up in this league. You just don't give them up like that so easily.
Yep.
And those who are on the fence about Chase Young, the man, like teams were literally game planning for this man.
Mm-hmm.
Like Wisconsin, he had 4 sacks? The first game when he played for Wisconsin?
Yeah, he racked the entire game. Yeah.
Yeah. And the score was 38-7?
Yeah.
And the second time they played around, they played, it was 31 to 31. I think it was 31 to 24, 25.
Something like that. It was a close game, and they actually got dominated in the first half. Did Ohio State? They double teamed them the entire game, pretty much.
Yeah, they game plan. And one of the teams, I have a friend who attends the University of Michigan, who, let's just say he's around the athletic department, who's gotten a hint that the players are the offensive line everyone was on them of that was their whole entire game plan.
Yeah.
Stop Chase Young.
Right.
This is like pretty much like their mantra. They're waking up in the morning, stop Chase Young. Like, so if the players are doing that, I know the coaches were doing that as well.
Yeah. I mean, who you think is putting that in their heads?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah. Anybody that doesn't see the brilliance there, the potential for this guy to be elite and one of the best pass rushers in the league is they just don't want to see it if they can't understand that. I challenge you to go back and watch the Clemson game where everyone's like, oh, what happened to your boy Chase Young? He didn't have any sacks. Do you see how many times he hit Trevor Lawrence in that game? How many times he was right there as he released the football? Like, are you kidding me?
And I like referencing the Wisconsin game because that's when I watched like every play that he was on the field, like every snap. In that game, he got into the backfield many times.
Yeah.
He had tackles for loss.
Yep.
He had quarterback hurries. He had quarterback hits. One of the things that we were complaining about former DNs on this team, but that they couldn't make it to the backfield. They couldn't get rushes hurries.
Yeah.
He's doing all of this while being double teamed, sometimes triple teamed, being the main focal point being the main focal point of others' offensive lines.
This is the thing,
Fans are critical.
This is the thing, Ronnie, is those people that you're talking to, because really you're preaching to the choir. Most of us agree with you. The people that you're talking to, they don't want it. They're not going to see it. They believe what they believe. They're going to be stubborn, and they're the ones that want you to trade the pick and get as many picks as you can, and they don't believe that one player can change the fortunes of this defense. And they're entitled to their opinion, but you're not going to change their mind. Nothing you say. You can show them the evidence over and over in multiple games. They don't care. They're not going to believe that he's good enough to uplift this defense. And so you talk till your face turns blue. But at the end of the day, you know what you saw. I know what I saw. And everybody else that believes that this guy is the real deal as a number 2 pick overall knows what they saw as well. And that's why I just don't know if there's any way you can trade this pick.
All right, number 2, I already set in stone in my head that we're getting Trey Boston as our safety. Reason why, because we always talk about the Rivera bringing in his staff and how horrible that is, or not we, but many Redskins fans.
Right.
But we also forget that he's bringing in these players who got a chance. He's bringing in this staff that had a chance to evaluate all of those players that are free agents on the Panthers, as well as the people that we have in our organization who evaluated all the players on our staff.
Right.
So now it's like we have the best of both worlds. Most people don't look at it, but we have the best of both worlds. So I have a feeling that he's going to bring him in. I know Trey Boston is probably going to be a man that many people want, but I think from what I've read, players have kind of an affinity for Ron Rivera, and I just assume that Trey Boston is going to come over here. Also, I hope you added him to your list of tight ends to watch or watch film on, but Harrison Bryant from FAU, that's not the best blocker, but he's willing. But route running and receiving, receiving wise, one of the best.
Okay. I'm going to get to these tight ends eventually down the list. And if he's as good as you say he is, he'll pop during the combine. He'll jump off the screen, and I'll see him.
He's popping right now in the Senior Bowl.
Yeah, so he'll pop, and I'll see him because I remember the combine isn't really good for a lot of things, but it is good to see athleticism. And that's when I realized, man, this George Kittle guy. And that's when I went back and watched George Kittle, and I was like, yo, anybody that would listen, and you can go back and watch. I was like, man, this is the guy right here. George Kittle is my sleeper. And, maybe there'll be a guy like that in this draft at the tight end position. So we'll see.
George Kittle had me going back, and their recent their recent tight ends had me looking at every tight end every year now.
Yeah.
Following. Yeah. I'm just looking at every Iowa tight end and every Iowa O-lineman.
And you can't really go wrong at those two positions there, man. They seem to churn out
But it
pros
was nice
there.
speaking to you, man.
Hey, likewise, man. Take care.
Take care.
All right, got another super chat. Gonna go ahead and take it. This one from my man Lorenzo Simpson. Hey, appreciate the super chat, Lorenzo, man. Thank you so much. Greatly appreciate the super chat, my man Lorenzo Simpson. He says, check your IG about my rookie grade. Free agent, free safety Trey Boston. I will definitely check that out and see what you have to say about him. As a matter of fact, let's see if I can do it right now. And you know what I'll do? I'll read it to the masses if I can pull it up. See if I can get to my IG real quick. And see if I already got your message. And if I have, I don't see anything there. So I don't see it. Doesn't mean it's not there. I just don't see it right now. So, and maybe you haven't sent it to me yet. Either way, that is it. We're going to go ahead and end the stream now. We'll do this, like I said, every week. I'll try to do at least one of these with you guys. And we may do another free agency edition, down the road as we get a little bit closer. But in any event, man, I thank you guys for joining me. Thank you for the super chats. Thank you for the likes. HTTR for life with a super chat says, HTTR from North Carolina, big fan of Austin Hooper. We all are. That's one of the guys we're hoping we're able to get our hands on. Like I said, he's number one on my list of tight ends and really free agents, period. And so, anyway, thank you guys for joining me tonight. Make sure you like this video. Subscribe to the Louis T Network if you haven't already done so. And remember, I am a Redskins fan, etched in burgundy and gold. My Redskins spirit will never die. Redskins spirit will never fold. Until we meet again, hail to our beloved Washington Redskins. Thank you guys for joining me, and I will see you guys the next time we jump on live. And again, set your calendar for most likely next Thursday. I think Thursday is going to be our night to do these. So I look forward to chopping up with you. And if anything happens of note in between then, you'll get a Redskins report from me at some point, whether live or an upload. But until then, you guys take it easy. Have a good one.